put Winnie down for a morning nap, and I thought while I do my makeup I'll just chat to you about my elective C-section and my experience of recovery and stuff. So tomorrow, so today's Wednesday, tomorrow I'll be 16 weeks postpartum, which is just absolutely crazy. I can't believe where time is going, and time is literally flying, and I hate that it's going so fast, but I think that's just the same for everyone. So I'm just going to take the Bondi Sands Face SPF. So I ended up having an elective C-section on the 2nd of April because Winnie was breech, and I was so scared, to be honest. I was literally shitting myself at like how it was going to be, what to expect, and I don't really know anyone who's had a C-section, so I was dreading the recovery, absolutely dreading it, thinking it was going to be horrific, and things were really, really, really immobile, and just I was really, really paranoid, to be honest, about the whole thing. So I just wanted to share my experience to hopefully like put some people's minds at ease. I'm just going to grab my contour. I had to be at the hospital for 7:30 in the morning, and then we like sort of went into the waiting room, filled out like some forms and our details and stuff, and then once the receptionist got there, she like checked us all in, and then she took us to like a side room, so it had like a bed in, a bit like a room on triage if anyone's ever been, well, the triage at hospital I went to, so it had like a CGT machine, and yeah, it was like a nice room. It was dead nice, me and Mary in there with all the stuff, and then they said, right, just have a relax. I was nil by mouth from the night before. So they're like, right, and the lady checking us in, she was like, word has it that you're first on the list, and I was like, oh my god, this is great, because there was another lady in the waiting room with me, but she got checked in first because she was there slightly before me and Rye, so I was like, oh god, maybe she's going to go first now because she was first here, but they actually said to me, oh no, you're probably going to be first in. So I was like, this is great. She's like, right, get settled into this room. Once she took us through, she was like, just relax. Then the anaesthetist will come and speak to you, midwives will come and speak to you, and the surgeon. So I was like, right, okay, great. So I felt very emotional, I felt very, like, I think a bit stressed, probably. But I also was so excited that, like, I actually can't believe we're going to meet our baby in a minute. This was, like, crazy. So by the time we were all checked in, I think it's probably, like, 10:08. And then, honestly, it felt like it happened so quick. Then our midwives come and spoke to us. They were so lovely. It was Tanya and I can't remember the lady's name. Ada? Something like that. They were both so lovely. And so they were like, we're going to be like with you the whole way through it. We'll be chatting to you. They were talking about things I'd selected. So we'd selected to have the generation study done. And they were asking if the dad wanted to cut the cord. So obviously Rye couldn't cut the cord from obviously the surgeon. Had to do that when she was taking her out, but yeah, I'm waffling because it's so hard to remember everything. Anyway, then so the surgeons, then the midwives come in, they weighed me, they give us some gowns and stuff to put on, and yeah, they give me a gown, like 2 gowns to put on, one to put on front, one to put on back, and then they give Rye some scrubs, which was nice. And then the anaesthetist come around, and I was absolutely shitting myself for the anaesthetist, to be honest, because I've got a high BMI. I had to go to an anaesthetist appointment whilst I was pregnant at the hospital. Honestly, it was on my birthday. It was horrible. It was absolutely awful. She was really mean. she was like, because you're big, you're going to have to, I'd recommend an epidural. Then if you end up in an emergency C-section, you won't, like, you'll be fine, rather than having to be put to sleep when there's more risk being put to sleep when you're big. And like, she was just really not nice the whole time. So I was really, really worried, to be honest, about having, I was really worried about birth after having that conversation with her. So I was, in general, and then obviously I was having a C-section, so I was fine. But then I was worried about the anaesthetist, because thinking, oh my god, what happens if they didn't get the needle in? Like, how am I going to have the C-section? I don't want to be put to sleep for the C-section. Anyway, so the anaesthetist come round. She was lovely, absolutely lovely. Her name was Emma, and she reminded me so much of my friend Amy. Like, just the way she spoke, the way she held herself, everything about her. I was like, oh my god, you look like Amy, and that made me feel at ease. So she was lovely. She explained what was going to happen. Obviously they needed my weight and stuff to work out the dosage of anaesthetic, I assume they needed, epidural. And then I was like, fab. She was dead nice. She was like, I'll be stood next to you the whole time. Any, like, if you feel sick, if you feel any type of way, just like keep me updated. If you start to feel anything, keep me updated, because she stood by like the drip, so she can just pop more in. So I was like, great, absolutely great. She was so nice. And then the next minute, the surgeon came round, and she, I can't remember her name now, Dr. Mick something, I can't think what it is. She was amazing, right? She was an older lady, and she was Scottish, and she was just absolutely gorgeous, and she was so nice and so reassuring and friendly. And she's like, right, so you're having a C-section today? I was like, yep. She's like, how come? I was like, because she's breech. And she's like, right, okay, I'm going to do a scan just to check the position. And I was also a bit worried, because I'd seen a TikTok saying that, like, sometimes breech C-sections are harder, they have to proper tug at them. And I was thinking, oh my god, like, I'm a bit worried. Anyway, she scanned me, because she was like, if she's flipped, do you want to still go ahead? And I was like, yeah, because I'm prepared now. I'm here, I want to meet my baby, you know? So she did the scan. Obviously Winnie was still breech. We knew that she was going to be still breech, because I'd been for like a growth scan, and they'd said, like, if she's to turn now, it would feel like you're fucking going to labour or something, because she's so big, like, it would feel like a massive upheaval. So I was like, well, I've not had that, so yeah. So we had the scan. They were happy with that she was still breech, happy with her position. So that, right, we'll go and get the theatre prepped, and then we'll call you down. So I was like, oh my god, I was sat there thinking, right, I need a wee. I was like, right, I don't need a wee. And then anyway, got my scrubs on, got all ready, and then I was like, oh my god, I need a wee. So, and I was literally going for a wee, and they're like, right, you ready to come down to theatre? And I was like, oh. I was like, no, I feel like I need a wee. So, right, go for a last wee. Because obviously I knew I was having the catheter in, but I was like, ah. So anyway, went for a wee, come out, and I was a bit like, I felt a bit overwhelmed into it, like, oh my god, it's actually happening. And then as I come out of the toilet, I can't think of this midwife's name for the life of me. I think I text someone, so I'll try and find it. Anyway, come out, and this lady and Rye were there, and they're like, right, you ready to go? And I was like, oh my god, like, literally shitting myself. So I waddled down to theatre, following the midwife, and we were in like the new theatres. It was gorgeous in there. It wasn't really, I didn't really know what to expect, because I just didn't, obviously, I've never had an operation, I've never had a C-section, I didn't know what to expect. So I walked through these double doors. It's this massive white room with a bed in the middle, and it was like I burst into tears because there must have been like, it felt like 15 people, 15 women just all stood around, and I was like, oh my god. I felt overwhelmed. I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? Like, I felt stressed. I started crying, and was really, really emotional. And Ryan was like, it's alright, babe, like, don't worry, it's fine, blah blah blah. He was really reassuring through it all, to be honest. And then so that, right, just sit on the bed. So I just sat on the edge of the bed. Ryan was on a little chair next to me, and he's like, right, in a minute we're gonna start like getting you ready. We're gonna do the spinal. I was like, yeah, great. So then the anaesthetist come back. She was like, oh, and I was sobbing, and she was like, don't, it's fine. She was like, it's normal to be emotional because like you're literally about to meet your baby. And I was like, yeah, I know. And, you know, they were all so lovely. And then the midwives were helping Bri get our music on, which I think that for me just like made it, because we had our own music playing, so I was relaxed. I just put mascara on and not upset my face. So I felt relaxed because we had our own music playing. It was just gorgeous experience. Anyway, they put the they're like, right, you've got to sit really still, and I was shitting myself. I mean, I'm not scared of needles, but I wouldn't like, I don't love them. I mean, does anyone love them? Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like jumping for joy, but also I wasn't like dithering wreck. I was just sort of like, can get this over and done with. So I think they like numb the area first, and then do the spinal. So I sat there still. So honestly, went in fine because I was so worried about her not being able to find the spot, but she did. And then they like laid me down. They like manoeuvred me, lay down, and then yeah, it was quite quickly. I sort of, my legs started to feel like pins and needles. Like I'm losing sensation in my legs, and then the midwives called me, put the catheter in, and then one midwife kept on checking up and down my body, where I could feel, where I couldn't feel, with this like frozen spray, and like prodding and poking me to see like what I could feel and stuff. So once I knew I was numb, also I had before I had the spinal done, I had a catheter put in. No, not a catheter, cannula in my wrist. So that was hooked up, I think it's antibiotics, I'm sure they said. Anyway, so I was lay there, I had it done, then they put the screen up, and they were like, right, we're gonna make way, and then it was a bit of a blur really, all of it happening. My sister was like, you okay? And I was lay there and I was like, I think I feel a bit sick. But I didn't know whether I felt sick because I actually felt sick, or I felt sick because I felt like I should feel sick. Do you know what I mean? Or like I was nervous and felt a bit sick. So I said to them, I was like, I don't know if I feel a bit sick or if it's just like nerves, I don't know. She said, right, we'll just give you a little bit of anti-sickness to, you know, keep you going. Anyway, they started and they were just chatting away, and you can't really feel anything. You can feel like, I'd say you can feel the slight pulling inside, but it's not painful, not uncomfortable at all. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Anyway, then we had a tiny nap. The next minute, I think her name was Dr. McNally? She was like, are you ready to meet a baby? And I was like, yeah. She's like, and when they actually, the anaesthetist said to me, are you ready to meet your baby? She's going to be here in like 5 seconds. And I was like, what? And then the doctor literally like lifted her up. It was like at the Lion King, lifted her up and was like, say hello to mummy. And I was like, oh my god, I was an emotional wreck. I was bawling my eyes out. I was just like, oh my god, I was like, what the hell? And then they give her, I think the midwives took her, well, I think they did skin to skin straight away once they got her. They put her on my chest, but I was sort of like, I felt like I was going to drop her because obviously she was so high up. I was like, ah. And I remember I just said, oh my god, she's tiny. And they weighed her and she was £7.4. And then Ryan went and cut the cords. Ryan had loads of cuddling time with her. And then she come back, cuddled us both once Ryan like cut the cord and everything. And then what else happened then? And then it was just the time really spent sewing me back up. I feel like that felt quite long, but to be honest, it went quite quick, but it did feel long. So like, when's this going to end? It's probably like half an hour. And then honestly, they were all just so amazing. Like, they were literally dancing around and singing with me at, like, before obviously the surgery started, and I was like, this is just amazing. And then got wheeled to recovery, and like the surgeon actually wheeled me herself, and even the midwife said when I got the recovery midwives when I got there were like, what are you doing, like wheeling her here? And she's like, I just want to, like, you know, make sure she's okay. And which I thought was such a nice touch, because obviously she's so busy, like she's got so many like surgeries to prep for, and you wheeled me to surgery, like to recovery. I thought that was a really, really nice touch. So I'm in recovery, they're just checking my blood pressure, my pulse, all my levels all the time. Kept on checking my wound to make sure it wasn't bleeding too much. It was quite bleeding, and it was quite like oozy, so they changed the dressing on that quite soon really. And then they were trying to get me, helping me breastfeed, so because I couldn't collect colostrum because I knew I was having a C-section and there's a slight chance it can induce labour, I hadn't collected any colostrum, so the midwife was like getting colostrum out, and there was loads coming out, and Winnie was, you know, having a go. But yeah, it was just honestly so magical. And then went back to the ward. We were back on the ward for like lunchtime, maybe even like 11:30, 12ish. And then there was a few hours just us two, and then mum came at 3. It was gorgeous, obviously they were just checking on us. And then around 7 o'clock at night, the midwife was like, right, we're going to get you up. So she stood me up. Well, they're not actually allowed to help you stand up anymore, she said. So she's like, right, you're going to stand up, because you're going to feel like a lot of blood's coming out. So she's like, put this pad in between your legs. And then like I did waddle to the shower. And then they were like, right, we'll look after the baby, we'll change your bed in. You and Rye have a shower. Like your partner can help you. So Rye obviously come in the shower with me, help me, because I was worried about bending down. But to be honest, it wasn't too bad at all. I was just slow, and then I walked around. And then yeah, what else? And the first night in hospital was rough, because I was just awake all night. I was so worried about Winnie. I was like, didn't have much sleep at all. But then it was fine. It was literally so fine. And then we come home the next day. Recovery was quite easy. The first few days at home, Rye had her in the next to me on his side, and then the first few nights babies don't really sleep. They just sort of awake all night, sleep all day. So it was a bit hard at first, but yeah. What else? So recovery wise, I think it's been fine. My midwife, like when the health visitor midwife come out, she was like, there's not actually a set time where you're not allowed to drive for. She said it used to be 6 weeks, but she says whenever you feel fine, whenever you feel like you can emergency stop, you're fine. So after like 10 days, I drove, and I felt fine. Like I felt quite fit. I was going on walks. I think if in the first couple of weeks, if I did too much, I could tell I was knackered and I'd bleed a little bit. But yeah, it was honestly, I would say to anyone, if you need an elective C-section, if you've had a really traumatic birth and want an elective C-section, if your baby's breech, honestly don't worry about it, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if I have any more children, I would 100% just have an elective C-section again. Because I know some people who've been induced and then they've ended up in emergency C-sections and their recovery's not been as easy and they've struggled more. And I think it's because your body's already been so strained, whereas me, I had like a full night's sleep the night before. Obviously I was nervous and like anxious and excited, but like I had my hair curled because I knew I was giving birth tomorrow. Like it was just such a nice experience, and I think the recovery was so fine. And obviously after 2 weeks I was like on my own, but like I felt good, and then I was getting out and about, and like yeah, it has honestly been an amazing experience, and I would do it 100 million times over to get Winnie.